George C. Marshall didn't win his fifth star with dramatic battlefield moments. He earned it by doing something much harder, building the most powerful military force the United States has ever fielded. When he became Army Chief of Staff in 1939, America had a smaller army than Portugal. Just 190,000 soldiers, scattered, underfunded, and frankly unprepared. To put it in perspective, the New York City Police Department today has more personnel than the entire U.S. Army Marshall inherited. Marshall didn't panic. He planned. He rebuilt the army from scratch, scaling it up until it reached over 8 million soldiers. A transformation so rapid, so massive, that no other military power in history had ever expanded that quickly. At one point, the U.S. was training 60,000 new soldiers every week, the size of a full modern army division every 7 days. He wasn't in the spotlight, but every single general who was in the spotlight, Eisenhower, Bradley, Patton, all came up through a system Marshall engineered. He approved promotions, shaped strategy, coordinated production, and connected the entire Allied machine like a central nervous system. If Marshall had failed, World War II would have unfolded very differently. He earned his fifth star because no officer in U.S. history had ever commanded the creation, deployment, and movement of millions of Americans across multiple continents at the same time. 8 million troops. One man at the top. That's a responsibility no four-star rank could cover. General Douglas MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur wasn't just a general, he was an entire personality. He walked with swagger, spoke with intensity, and operated with a level of personal conviction that bordered on myth. But behind the theatrics was a commander shouldering an unbelievable burden. When Japan struck the Pacific, MacArthur's theater, spread across an area the size of North America, multiplied several times. Jungles, swamps, oceans, islands, weather that destroyed machines and men alike. Some of his troops fought on islands so remote that many didn't even appear on contemporary maps. At his peak, MacArthur commanded over 1.25 million American troops, plus Australian, Filipino, and other Allied forces. His entire theater stretched thousands of miles, with battles happening simultaneously in places he could only reach by air or sea. He faced disaster in the Philippines, retreated under orders, and promised, "I shall return." That wasn't ego, it was fuel. And when he returned, he did it with overwhelming force, retaking island after island, breaking Japan's defensive perimeter, and rebuilding an entire nation after the war. By the end of the war, MacArthur was responsible for governing more people than lived in the entire United States east of the Mississippi River. A four-star general commands armies. MacArthur commanded a geographical empire of war. His fifth star wasn't a promotion. It was an acknowledgement that he was running a war larger than anything a modern U.S. commander has ever faced. General Dwight D Eisenhower. If MacArthur was fire, Eisenhower was ice, calm, diplomatic, relentlessly stable. He didn't rise through flashy heroism. He rose because he could handle the one job no one else could, holding together a coalition made of nations that barely tolerated each other. Eisenhower commanded the Allied forces during the liberation of Europe, a combined war machine of over 4.5 million troops under a single unified strategy. That included American, British, Canadian, French, Polish, and other forces. It was the largest multinational army ever assembled, larger than the armies of Caesar, Napoleon, and the Mongols combined. 4.5 million people. Multiple languages, cultures, equipment types, political agendas, and egos, all converging on his desk. He orchestrated D-Day, a plan so gigantic it required 5,000 vessels, 11,000 aircraft, 160,000 troops on day one, and months of supply lines stretching back across the Atlantic. The night before D-Day, Eisenhower wrote a note accepting full responsibility if the invasion failed, even though he knew the first wave could face casualty rates of 60 to 70%. And then he oversaw everything after: the breakout from Normandy, the liberation of Paris, the collapse of the German front, and the final victory. He didn't just lead an army. He led the largest multinational force ever assembled in human history. That scale alone required a 5-star rank, because he was responsible for the Western Hemisphere's entire effort to crush Nazi Germany. General Henry Hap Arnold. Henry Hap Arnold commanded a force unlike anything seen before World War II. He was the head of the U.S. Army Air Forces, and under him, America's air power exploded into a global juggernaut. From a few thousand men, Arnold expanded his command to 2.4 million airmen, supported by 80,000 aircraft. At peak production, American factories were building a new bomber every hour, a tempo driven entirely by Arnold's demands. That's not just a big command. That's a nation-sized organization flying in every theater of the war. Arnold oversaw strategic bombing of Germany, long-range bombing of Japan, escort fighters, cargo flights across the Himalayas, island-hopping air campaigns, experimental research that led to jets, rockets, and nuclear delivery systems. He effectively created the modern concept of air supremacy. His role grew so huge that Congress later made him the only person to ever hold two five-star equivalents, General of the Army and General of the Air Force. Arnold didn't just earn a fifth star, he earned his own branch of the military. General Omar Bradley. Omar Bradley didn't bark orders, didn't show off, didn't try to become a legend. He let his results speak, and the results were staggering. During World War II, Bradley commanded the 12th Army Group, the largest field command in U.S. history, at over 1.3 million soldiers. That's more troops than the entire Union Army at the height of the Civil War. Just think about that. 1.3 million humans answering to one man's overall direction. Bradley led them through. The storming of Normandy, the breakout from the beachhead, the liberation of France, the Battle of the Bulge, the final push into Germany. After the war, he became the first chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, responsible for America's global military posture during the opening years of the Cold War. His fifth star wasn't a ceremonial pat on the back. It was recognition that he commanded the largest American ground force ever assembled in a single theater. Why no one will ever earn a fifth star again. A fifth star isn't about honor or prestige. It's about scale. It's about responsibility so massive that the military has to invent a higher rank just to match it. These men commanded 8 million soldiers, 1.25 million Pacific troops, 4.5 million Allied forces, 2.4 million airmen, 1.3 million ground troops. Today, the entire U.S. active duty military, across all branches, is smaller than Marshall's army alone. No modern general commands anything even close to those numbers. Today's wars are smaller, more specialized, more fragmented, and the Pentagon spreads authority across many commands. No single person holds the entire world on their shoulders anymore. That's why the fifth star hasn't returned, and why these 5 men remain in a category of their own, a category that may never see another member.